Welcome to another episode of Grizzly True Crime. My name is Gisela K, and today we're going to be looking at the Evansdale murders that happened in 2012, a double homicide of two young girls. It was Lyric Cook, aged 10, and Lizzie Elizabeth Collins, aged 8. If you haven't heard about this yet, don't worry, we're going to go over everything. I've mentioned it here and there because speculatively there's a small possibility. Well, you can decide whether you think it's possible or not, that there's a connection between this double homicide and the Delphi double homicide, which we've been deep diving on this channel. So let's get started. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you are new here, then hello and welcome to the Grizzly community. I hope that at some point during this video, you'll consider subscribing and officially becoming part of us. And if you are already a Grizzly, then welcome back. It's always so nice to see you. Before I get started, let me read you my disclaimer. As always, all Grizzly true crime content is for adults only and may contain themes that some individuals find triggering, offensive, or disturbing. The intent is not to disrespect viewers or any individuals spoken about herein. Viewer discretion is advised. So today we're going to look at the double homicide case of Lyric Cook and Elizabeth Collins. They were cousins. Lyric was 10 and Elizabeth was 8. And all they did was on a Friday afternoon, on the 13th of July, 2012, they went on a bike ride in Evansdale, Iowa. They were last seen at Meyers Lake, where they found their bicycles and Elizabeth's purse. And then 5 months later, in December, their bodies were found by hunters 20 miles north in the Seven Bridges Wildlife Area. Of course, you know me, whipping out the maps so that you can get a good visual of what I mean. So Evansdale, Iowa, and their bodies were found 5 months later because they weren't obviously searching 20 miles away. But you know what's interesting? Why this already for me could tie into or be connected to, this could be Bridge Guy. Why? Because Seven Bridges Wildlife Area, Monon High Bridge. And can you imagine if this really is someone who is a hunter? Their bodies were discovered by hunters, so that's interesting, meaning it could be an area popular for hunting, just like the Delphi area is, that Monon High Bridge and the trails around there. So let me know what you think as we go along. Of course, the FBI is involved in both cases, so that's interesting, and what they say about the killer, also very interesting, and how the police talk about the killer, who they think it is, someone in the community, someone who knows the area well. And guess what? In both cases, one being almost 5 years old now, 5 years unsolved, and this Evansdale double homicide, almost 10 years unsolved. This year, in July, on the 13th, it will be 10 years unsolved. Now, hear me out on this one. I really should put on my spectacles for this, but I'm not going to. But I'm going to speculate for 1 second. Can you imagine if already after the Evansdale double homicide, they were like, whoa, maybe there were signatures. They didn't say it in this case, not from what I've read so far. But if they're like, this could be a serial killer. And then 5 years later, another double homicide happens. And not too far away. So if you want to know how far away, let's have a look. So I'm going to, let's take out this Evansdale one so we can see this distance. Okay, so it's 415 miles away. It's pretty far. It depends on what you think far is. That's, of course, relative. But 7 Bridges Wildlife Area, Monon High Bridge. Very interesting. So, if Bridge Guy lived somewhere in between, that would also be interesting to me. And if it happened on 07/13/2012, and the Delphi murders happened on 02/13/2017, you see what I did there? You see what I'm saying? It's just a switch of a digit. Then I would speculate that if this killer is still alive and well, walking around and will strike again, I would speculate that he would strike on 09/13/2022. I did a whole little true crime sum. You decide what your sum is. You can speculate your own thing. But I would say 13th of September 2022. If there's another double homicide, which I absolutely hope there isn't, man, that'll be scary. That would be so scary. And I don't know in which direction this person would go. You know, where would that be? What other bridges are we talking about? You know, so if I say here, bridge, what else is there? Bridgeport. Ooh, let's look at that. Bridge View. That's in the center. I don't know. I don't know what other bridges are in that. I'll have to look. But it doesn't have to be in between. This person can go in any direction. But that is a scary thought. Let me show you. Let me stop babbling now and show you. We will look at this video which says Lyric and Elizabeth 8 years later. And the reason we're going to look at it is because, let's try to make it bigger. How about that? Let's do this. Then you can see how the police talk about this case.
New for you tonight here live at 10 o'clock. 8 years running, and it's still an unsolved, haunting, and horrifying Evansdale criminal case.
And now it's 10 years later in July.
Next Monday, July 13th, will mark the 8th anniversary of the kidnappings and murders of Lyric and Elizabeth.
Well, tonight here at 10 o'clock, you're going to hear directly from the lead agent of the Division of Criminal Investigation on the status of this investigation as we ask the question, who killed Lyric and Elizabeth and why?
Everybody that's lived in this community for any extended period of time has the investment in seeing this brought to a conclusion.
Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation Special Agent Scott Rieger is now the lead investigator on the Lyric and Elizabeth case.
Personally, it's a pursuit of endurance. It's a case of endurance, I mean, for me personally.
So can you tell me approximately how many leads you've received over the 8 years, how many you still get?
Well, I think within the last couple of years, when I first got it, we had approximately 1,580 leads, and my guess is in the last 2.5, 3 years, we've probably gotten an additional 200 to 300 on top of that. So we're approaching 2,000 leads, you know, in 8 years.
For so many, it's like it happened yesterday. The Cedar Valley community mobilizes in a massive land and lake.
This community only has 4,700 residents. So Delphi's got 3,000. So you can see that in both cases, double homicide of 2 young girls, and in both cases, it's a very small community.
Search for 8-year-old Elizabeth Collins and her 10-year-old cousin, Lyric Cook Morrissey. Someone abducted and then killed the cousins who had gone on a bike ride that Friday the 13th in July of 2012. Their bikes and personal belongings were found at Meyers Lake in Evansdale. Volunteer searchers turned out by the hundreds, but to no avail. 145 days later, on December 5th, hunters found the girls' bodies 20 miles north of Evansdale at the well-known 7 Bridges Wildlife Area in Bremer County. The cause and circumstances of their deaths have never been made public. Can you say how many suspects maybe you've had?
Did you hear that? The cause and circumstances of their death has never been made public. Of course, because there's idiots that come forward and say, I did it, because they're looking for some sort of sense of importance or something. Very odd how people do that. But they've never released how the girls died, just like in the Delphi case.
Or how many suspects you ruled out?
Yeah, we won't comment on ruled in, ruled out, or who we've...
Though the case remains unsolved, the Angels Park Island at Meyers Lake in Evansdale serves as a lasting tribute and memorial while the investigation continues. And make no mistake, Even after 8 years, investigators from federal, state, and local agencies are still working this case, a team which includes criminal intelligence analysts.
To go through large volumes of data, and that's what I think a lot of people think. There's just an investigator or two from time to time that go through it, but we have regular periods of time that we carve out to investigate it.
Across the community, speculation still runs rampant. Was it a sexual predator who had stalked the girls?
We vetted a large amount of sex offenders in Black.
To me, it's interesting that he says we vetted a large amount of sex offenders. So by saying that, it appears to be a sexual crime. Of course, that would generally be the motive of someone who would do something like this, but they didn't really say that in the Delphi case. They didn't say that at all. So if this could, in any small way or a big way, be connected, it's very likely, which is something that we already speculate, a sexually motivated crime.
Blackhawk County and the surrounding counties.
Or is it perhaps connected to the illegal drug scene and an unpaid drug debt? The girls were kidnapped only days before Lyric's dad, Dan Morrissey, was set to go on trial on drug charges to which he would later plead guilty, sending him to prison for decades.
Yeah, we've gotten a variety of different criminal history backgrounds on the people that we have investigated and vetted.
Leaving no stone unturned.
5 years ago, officers said they believe the killer is someone who still lives in the community and is familiar with the Seven Bridges area.
See?
Are you still thinking along that line?
You never want to become too tight.
It ends there, just abruptly, this video, but you never want to become too tight-lipped. But they do believe that it could be someone living amongst them in the community. So, what do you think about that? Let me know. Any thoughts? Oh my word, let's take a quick break, shall we? Just a quick one. If you like my content and would like to say thank you, the easiest way to do that is, of course, to buy a copy of any one of my books, or to buy me a coffee on buymeacoffee.com/Gisela K, which I'll link below for you. Thank you so much for listening. While we're busy with a quick commercial break, I just want to let you guys know, because I've let my members know, that I'm only going to have one tier of membership here on YouTube, which will be the $1.99 tier. So everyone who's already a member, please make sure you downgrade to the $1.99 level before I delete the $4.99 level. Reason being, I'm taking the top tier to Patreon, of which many of my members have already come over to Patreon. Reason being, I would like to offer scripts, because oftentimes when I do deep dives on cases, I actually write out full scripts. So I offer scripts, photos, videos, art, all kinds of stuff. I just like the variety of it all. Whereas here on YouTube, all you could offer to your members is a video or a live stream, something like that. But I like to offer lots of different things so that there's something for everyone. You know, not everyone wants to join membership and then see me do freaking Vlogmas or walking around or riding my bike. Sometimes people join to see, well, what else do you have? I have podcast episodes of all 4 seasons of my podcast, which would be based on the books that I wrote, on Patreon as well. So if you're interested in those perks, then head on over to Patreon. The link is in the description box below. Okay, so now let's have a look at an interview with the mother of the missing, they say, interview with the mother of missing Evansdale girls. So this is Lyric's mother. Reason being that Lyric's, the 10-year-old's mother and father, actually both ended up in prison. That sucks. But they are not suspected of foul play in this case, but I thought that it would be of interest to you to at least have a look at this interview.
This morning from Meyers Lake. Definitely an active scene there. He's got the latest on the search efforts. Josh, looks like things
This is 2012. This is right after it happened.
are definitely moving ahead this morning early on.
Kelly, the water is still draining here this morning, and police are still working to find those 2 missing girls.
I must interject to tell you that Meyers Lake was drained for days. That's a huge operation, trying to drain that lake little by little to see if the girls' bodies could be found in the lake, because cadaver dogs actually trace their scent, or tracking dogs. I don't know if it was tracking dogs or cadaver dogs. There is a difference, but I believe dogs track their scent all the way up to the water's edge. So they started draining the lake to rule out the possibility that they were actually in this lake.
Morning, we actually are here with the mother of Lyric this morning to tell us a little bit about what's going on. How has it been these last few days?
The first 3 days we were very active, searching, going through the woods. The last few days this week, when they're not allowing the citizen search, has been a lot more difficult. Not having as much to do, keeping busy, and as the time continues to go on, so do your concerns and worries about what might be happening to them and where are they. I'm glad they're draining.
This might remind you of the Summer Wells case and how the mom talks just a little bit. But I believe both parents went to prison for drug-related charges, so I'm not too sure what state she's in here, if she's affected at all by drugs or not, but she does definitely seem just a little bit disconnected emotionally, right? There's not a heap of emotion here, and she definitely smiles a lot in this, but I don't think it's because she's involved. That's just my opinion. You are welcome to speculate as much as you can. You must watch this and make up your own mind about what you think. But I'm not convinced the parents are involved. I would more speculate towards Bridge Guy, whoever that is, and the ties between what are the patterns that we see here between the two cases, because there are a lot of them. But I'm losing my train of thought. I'm trying to say, have a look at the body language if you want to, and speculate what you will. I would say Bridge Guy is more speculation for me than Lyric's parents.
The lake to rule that out, since the dogs picked up their scent at the water's edge. But again, I hate to think that they're out there with somebody and what could be happening to them.
Now, I think a lot of
Big smiles.
us, and especially those who have kids, can only wonder what you're going through. How has it been these last, few days? I mean, what is it like? Can you describe for us?
Well, you wake up in the morning and pray and ask God to give you the strength and what's necessary to endure the day. And then when you have moments in your day when you break apart and you break down, you grab your family and you break down with them. And then you pick back up, and then you keep going. And so that's what the last few days have been like for each of us.
You mentioned that you're happy that the police are draining this lake here. Do you have any ideas or suggestions for them where they should go to from here?
No, because they've searched so well in the surrounding area, my only concern is that they're far away, days away, maybe another state, something like that. That's my concern. And if they are, how do we find them there? So that's kind of the good thing about the media.
I don't know about you, she reminds me so much of Candace Bly, Summerwell's mother. But let me know if she reminds you of anyone.
Yeah, that their faces in the story gets out, to the different states.
Now, it was a couple days ago that a dog picked up on the scent of, one of the kids. Does that give you guys any hope?
There's 2 dogs, and each dog picked up both scents of the girls. So both scents were picked up there. It gave the police some, they were happy with the results, but the dogs stopped at the water's edge. So I don't know how much that tells us. If they drain the lake and they're not in there, that didn't help. So.
Very odd. Sorry for my phone notification. I just made sure it's off now. It was Mr. Grizzly, okay? He's inviting me for another freezing cold cycle, which I always say yes to. Always up for a freezing cold cycle. But yeah, this mother is very emotionally disconnected at this point. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, good luck with your search, and thank you for joining us with us here this morning. Now, Kelly, you can see it's obviously very difficult for family members who are dealing with trying to find those 2 missing kids right now. Police say they're going to be out here for as long as they can until they do find them, and they're following every tip and every lead that they get. We are in Evansdale. Josh Scheinblum, CBS.
And can you believe that was in 2012? It's almost 10 years later. And media attention has for sure died down. So Grizzlies, you know what to do. Share this episode. Start talking about it some more on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. That would be amazing. Thank you. Because I tweet a lot these days. I was never a tweeter, but now I'm tweeting. I realize the importance of tweeting. And so if you could retweet my tweets and let's tweet each other's tweets, you know what I mean? So that we can share missing persons cases, that we can shine a light on a case like this that really hasn't got much media attention in the last, I don't know how many years. I would like to shine a light on this case and say what, and can you imagine if this is connected in any way? Okay, so I'm just going to go forward here because they talk about the lake quite a bit more. You can see, look. They talk about the lake a lot over here the next few days and just how slowly it's draining and all that. But I wanted to show you just here where the police are.
People that are calling in, giving us this tips, we're sending people out to talk with those people, so every tip is being followed up on.
Now, Kelly, police say they're going to be holding a press conference later today around 4 o'clock this afternoon. Now, it has been very difficult for people in the community to deal with this. We've seen a number of people here in this spot over by the lake just coming by saying to show their community support. To give you an idea of that community support, there's a number of trees here that are tied with pink and purple ribbons, people trying to show that they are with the family. We spoke earlier over on our sister station on CBS this morning with the mother of one of those two missing girls, and she says that the only thing that's getting her through these hard times is prayer and prayers from the community. For now, we're in Evansdale. Josh Scheimblum, Fox 28 News at 7.
Okay, and those...
Oh, my word. Okay, and I just want to see one more thing here, which I think is here. Hold on.
Josh.
Kelly, after more than 5 days of searching, there are still no new leads here in this case to try to find those two missing girls. We're here at Meyers Lake this morning, the last known place these two girls were seen, and police say they're breaking out every effort to try to find them. On Monday, they began to start to drain this lake so they could be, in their words, 100% certain that they weren't there at all. Now, police originally were pretty confident they weren't, but again, want to make sure that they're 100% certain. Now, the search here has been continuing again for about 5 days here. That means crews have been out here on the water in boats, and police say they've been following every tip and every lead that they've had called into their station. It's been some very trying and difficult times for family members as well, and they say what's getting them through this situation is their faith in God.
Our prayers are for God to protect them, to be with them, to keep them safe, to keep them comforted. You know, if they are alive, that, you know, God is present with them.
Now, Kelly, it's important to note that even though the lake is draining here, it hasn't been happening very fast. You can kind of get an idea here. You can see the banks just a little bit descended from the last time.
Can you imagine draining a lake? Whoa, that must be quite the operation. And do they put the water back? Does anyone know? You got experience with draining lakes? Do they drain all the water out and where does it go? And then they put all the water back, or what? Whew, that must have been quite a job, and the girls were not found there. 5 months later, 20 miles north. They were okay, back it up. Elizabeth Collins was living with her grandmother, much like Libby German was living with her grandmother. And Lyric Cook, her cousin, had come over to visit Lizzie, and they decided to go on a bike ride. And in fact, it was Lizzie's younger sister, who was only 4 at the time, who was like, "Can I come too?" And they said, "No, because Grandma's not going to be with us." So, thankfully, she didn't go with, I guess. Unless the person was absolutely committed to commit a double homicide. I don't think if it's a predator like this that they would have refrained if it was 3 little girls. What do you think? My word, such dark topics and thoughts, right? What? Let's look at this quickly.
The thought of having your sister not here when you wake up is just terrifying.
She was only 4 years old the day her sister Elizabeth and cousin Lyric disappeared, but Callie Collins remembers everything, even asking her sister to go on that bike ride.
And I said, "But can I go?" And she said, "No, because Grandma's not going to come with."
Elizabeth and Lyric never came home from that summer afternoon bike ride. They were last seen riding near Meyers Lake in Evansdale.
I don't think there's ever going to be a day in my life that I don't think about it constantly and wonder where she'd be or what she'd be doing.
5 months later, on a cold December day, hunters discovered the girl.
I'm just pausing this. I don't like focusing on the morbidity of people's remains. I know true crime channels do that, and I know some of you email me that and show me all sorts of things that you think you found from zooming into a picture like this. I'm just pausing it here just for a second to look at if that's the crime scene, because it looks like there's tape around there. And if those are sheets that are put on the ground, I would assume that the girls are placed separately like that. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're just putting that on the ground to mark something. But they haven't released how they were killed. They haven't released if they were signatures or if they were posed or anything like that. But I just thought, because we didn't see this in the Delphi case, them flying over the crime scene like this, I would just pause this for a second. But yeah, I might as well be snarky for a second and say, all of you who email me details, graphic details of how you think a body may have been found, please stop doing that. I am a gentle soul. Yes, I cover true crime. I know. But I try to cover it for an audience that wants a more gentle approach to true crime. True crime with empathy. I don't want horrific details that will give me horrendous nightmares. My brain has to decide how far it can go. Mostly what I want is justice for the victims and closure for the families. That is why I cover these cases. I don't have a morbid fascination with how the remains were found. Okay, snarkiness over.
Girls' bodies in a very remote wooded area called Seven Bridges Wildlife Park in Bremer County.
I would think it almost has to be somebody local that knows either the Seven Bridges area well.
To date, authorities have interviewed more than 1,000 people.
I mean, it looks eerily similar to the Delphi crime scene. Am I right? Look at it. Oh my word.
And looked into more than 300 sex offenders. A new lead is a sex offender from Ankeny. 58-year-old Jeff Altmeyer is in jail charged with trying to entice children in Jasper, Monona, and Grundy County by offering them $100 to get in his car. Court records show he was working as a traveling automobile damage field inspector.
It's very concerning to us when you have an individual like that has the access that he does through his employment at the time to basically roam the state or roam the Midwest.
Lyrics.
Should we hear what he did again? One more time.
Court records show he was working as a traveling automobile damage field inspector.
It's very
traveling automobile damaged field inspector. That's quite a title, don't you think? Whoa.
Field inspector.
It's very.
One more time. I'm very sorry.
Automobile damage field inspector.
It's very.
Automobile damaged field inspector. Whoa.
Very concerning to us when you have an individual like that has the access that he does through his employment at the time to basically roam the state or roam the Midwest.
Lyric's parents, Dan and
I'm even going to go back one more time because let's look at his face. I'm just looking now to see, could this be Bridge Guy? I don't know. It's quite a weird angle he's got going on there. So, very defiant, scary mugshot.
Lyric's parents, Dan and Misty Morrissey, are now both in prison serving for unrelated drug charges. At the time, their involvement with drugs fueled speculation. But today, authorities don't believe they were involved.
I think people are confident in saying that they didn't have an active role. However, I mean, that doesn't rule out anything coming into the future.
2 people have confessed to.
Doesn't rule out anything coming into the future. So it's like, doesn't think they're involved, but maybe someone they were connected to. Maybe they'll look into them again. You just never know.
The crime, but authorities eliminated them after finding out they didn't know any intimate details about the case. Investigators have never told anyone exactly how Lyric and Elizabeth died. Drew Collins says he doesn't want to know, but he's confident both girls put up a fight.
They were both scrappers. Yeah.
I don't know what scrappers means, but I would assume fighters.
Would have both fought.
The high-profile case that drew national attention has devastated the town of Evansdale and torn apart the Collins family.
She's supposed to be here, she's not, and I just really miss her.
Elizabeth's parents divorced because of their differences in dealing with the immense grief.
It's more than a person can deal with.
Today, the Collins kids never go anywhere without an adult and wear necklaces with a picture of Elizabeth. Meyers Lake is now Angels Park, and memorials for the girls are everywhere. Even 5 years later, there is hope.
After 5 years, they're not giving up on this case, and we're going to hunt this guy down until we catch him.
What about after 10 years, guys? We need to put a light back on this case. I haven't seen this in the news or in the media recently. Have you? Have you ever heard about this case? If not, you know what to do. We're going to tweet, we're going to share, we're going to talk about it, we're going to make episodes, we're going to deep dive, we're going to map time, we're going to do all that. Because what? Oh my word. So if we look at findagrave.com, which you know I like to go look there to see if there's just some additional details, or sometimes the family writes, Lyric Ray Lynn Cook Morrissey is her full name. She was born on the 2nd of October 2001 in Waterloo, Black Hawk County, Iowa, USA. She died on the 13th of July 2012, age 10, in Evansdale, Black Hawk County, Iowa. And she was buried in Waterloo Memorial Park Cemetery. Lyric was the daughter of Dan Morrissey and Misty Cook Morrissey. On the morning of July 13th, Lyric went bike riding with her 8-year-old cousin, Elizabeth Collins, in the street in front of Elizabeth's house, while Elizabeth's grandmother kept an eye on them. After a while, her grandmother realized that they weren't there anymore. The police were called and a search was started. They found their bicycles 2 miles away, but their bodies weren't found until December 5th in the Seven Bridges Wildlife Area. And then if we look at Elizabeth June Marie Collins, she was born on the 31st of July 2003 in Waterloo, Black Hawk County, Iowa, and she died on the 13th of July 2012, aged 8, in Evansdale, Black Hawk County, Iowa, and she was also buried in Waterloo Memorial Park Cemetery. I don't know about you, but it's always like comforting when people are buried together. That's the one pain that I'll still feel despite everything else of Kylan and Crystal's case, is that they are not buried together. I think that's sad. I wish they were buried together. The Moab Murders. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please check out my Unsolved and Missing Persons playlist, as well as my Gabby Petito playlist, because there I covered the Moab double homicide, again, in a small community. So these small community double homicides are super scary. It must absolutely terrify them to think that they have such a small, safe, close-knit community, and here comes some predator, some possible serial killer, and takes these lives so callously. It's horrible. Of course, Kylan and Crystal were adults. They were adult females. They're not connected to this case. That's not what I'm saying. But the Delphi double homicide and the Evansdale one, to me, it seems like it really could be. So they say Elizabeth was the daughter, yes, of Drew and Heather Collins. On the morning of July 13th, Elizabeth went bike riding in the street in front of her house with her then 10-year-old cousin, Larry Cook Morrissey, while her grandmother watched them from the house. Right. After a while, her grandmother realized that they weren't there anymore. Police were called and they found their bicycles 2 miles away, but their bodies weren't found until December 5th in the Seven Bridges Wildlife Area. The killer was never found. Still, I know I read that twice, but still to this day, almost 10 years later, the killer has never been found. I mean, what? Don't you find that so scary? Oh my goodness. Then I want to read you this one quickly. Oh my word. 8 years ago, they say, but now it's 10 years ago. Cousins Larry Cook Morrissey and Elizabeth Collins were found dead nearly 5 months after they'd gone missing. On Wednesday, December the 5th, 2012, their bodies were found by hunters at the Seven Bridges Wildlife Park near Reedlin in Bremer County, a wildlife area approximately 25 miles from where the girls were last seen. Lyric and Elizabeth were seen at approximately 12:23 p.m. on Friday, July 13th, 2012, on Broven Boulevard in Evansdale, and then spotted between 12:30 and 1 p.m. on Gilbert Drive, not far from Meyers Lake. So they say neighbors' cameras, I think it was neighbors' cameras, it was someone's camera footage, caught them on their bike just riding by. And so not far from Meyers Lake, a popular fishing and recreation area with about 4,700 residents. Elizabeth's purse and and their bikes were later found on a trail on the southeast corner of Meyers Lake around 4 p.m. that day, but there were no clues to their whereabouts. The girls' grandmother, Wilma Cook, told press at the time that she last saw the girls riding their bikes near downtown Evansdale at about 12:15 the day they went missing. In the years since they went missing, authorities have interviewed more than 1,000 people and hundreds of sex offenders. It was also revealed in 2017 that 2 people had confessed to the crime, but authorities eliminated them after determining they did not know any intimate details about the case. Like, could you not do that? Oh my word. It doesn't make you important, significant, or cool to confess to a double homicide. Oh my word. At this time, no arrests have been made in connection to their deaths. Now, let me tell you here, let's just look at this list of what the offender profile is. According to the FBI and law enforcement, this is sort of what they've come up with, right? So I'm just going to move this over here. Okay. They say, the offender is familiar with both Meyers Lake or Angels Park in Evansdale and Seven Bridges Wildlife Area in Bremer County. The suspect chose Seven Bridges because he or she was familiar with the area and knew it was secluded. The offender blends in with and may be part of Evansdale, Bremer, and surrounding communities. The suspect likely used quiet coercion to gain the girls' compliance into leaving Meyers Lake, using a ruse or threats of violence, and that other possible characteristics include the suspect may have been experiencing stress related to legal troubles, spousal problems, employment difficulties, financial strain, or mental health issues in July 2012. The suspect may avoid discussing the case or showing interest in the matter, but is likely following developments in the media. The offender may have attempted to abduct children or adults in the past. Following the disappearance, the suspect may have altered his or her physical appearance, such as changing hairstyle and facial hair. The offender's vehicle may also have been altered with a new paint job or reupholstery. The Courier also reported that analysts' experience with prior abduction cases points to one person being involved, but there are cases where more than one person was involved. Interesting. Oh my word. So every year they have a annual memorial ride and drive for the 2 girls and to highlight other cold cases and other missing persons cases. Cold, unsolved, and missing persons cases. So they're probably going to have one again, I would assume, in 2022. But oh my word, we thought Delphi was bad, that is unsolved since 2017. This is unsolved since 2012. Oh my word, and even to think that it could be connected is even more shocking to me. Like, what? It's not uncommon for serial killers to get away with what they do for more than a decade. That's the problem. Wow. Okay, so I think that was a good start to the topic. Let me know what you think about that. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I've read so much on this. I've been deep diving this. Whoa. Just looking at everything that I possibly can about it, and it's all very interesting, especially that, you know, the play on the numbers with the dates 7/13/2012 and then 2/13/2017. Whoa, interesting. So let me know if you come up with a speculation out of that, if this was a serial killer, and if you suspect they would strike again. Let me know what date you come up with and why. I mean, that will be interesting as well. I'd recommend you email that to me because the comments might it will get lost in there. grizzlytruecrime@gmail.com. So thank you so much for watching and for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed the episode. If you like the way that I cover true crime, please do hit the thumbs up. Hit it, punch it, like it, hug it, do whatever you want with it. I never know exactly what to say. Hit the like button. Sounds so passive-aggressive, does it not? But if you could do that, that would be great. Leave your comments below. And if you are not yet subscribed, I think this would be your moment to do that if you want to become part of the Grizzlies, which is such a fantastic community. Thank you so much for all your comments, for always being so proactive, for all your emails and tips and just everything. You guys are amazing, and I appreciate you, and I look forward to the next one.